Only one.
Only one.
Only one ossifer.
We'll have the biggest cups ever
See, that was better. Now it's better with.
Test.
What
with
is
more
it?
bourbon.
Yeah, it was a little too sweet. I was like,
Is that what we're doing now on our podcast? So is this our launch for official USAT takeover? Hostile takeover?
Yeah, hostile takeover.
No, thank you.
no, yeah, me
You
neither.
don't want the CEO money?
No, I mean,
Oh, actually, I would like the money and not have to do anything.
right. Yeah.
All right, we're recording. Okay, cool. Ready? Ooh.
That's a big.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of. Oh boy, we're gonna have to do that again. We're way over everything. I like bumped into this. Everybody's good on sound.
Now I am.
1, 2. A little loud.
Yeah,
Oh,
Little
headphones.
loud.
1, 2.
Headphones are good.
One,
mine can
two.
go up a little bit.
Mine could go
Is-
One, two.
down
is that
a little
good?
bit.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's try that again. All right, hello, welcome everybody to another episode of the Team Next Level Quad Pod. I'm Coach Greg, joined by Marilyn, James, and Rich. What's up, everybody?
Hey.
Hey guys. I don't know where to look. So many
I know,
cameras.
there's so much stuff
Just
going
we
on
have,
here.
Act natural.
we have to adjust again.
This is
I know, it's
sensory
so
overload
weird.
for me. We're trying
And
some
change.
new stuff. Yeah, change
Don't know where
change
to
is
look.
difficult. I can't
Change
see
is
Marilyn.
hard.
She's through my
I know.
boom
Your
arm.
big boom arm.
We need a round table, like Knights of the
If we
Temple.
have a follower who's a carpenter and would like to make us a round table,
That can fold up easily,
I
though.
told you.
Yeah.
I told you I can make the table. I just can't make it fold up. All right. So welcome everybody. A couple of things we're going to talk about. The main topic of our show this week is going to be how to improve your triathlon run by not running more. James?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. This was James's idea, and I think it's a good one. And so we're going to talk about one of the easiest ways to improve your run in triathlon specifically. And we're going to get into some of the details about that. But sort of late breaking news today, I guess it was last night, some interesting things came out of a meeting with USA Triathlon. And they had they do like this weekly or bi-weekly town hall meeting Zoom kind of thing for anybody who wants to go and listen to, random topics. But this one was a big one. The USAT has changed their pricing structure for membership, and a couple of things are good things. They've lowered the price, or they've scaled the price of the one-day membership based on the distance of the race. So USAT, I forget what the numbers are, but they used to just have like a standard. I think it was it $25 for a race
per race, 25.
Yeah. Now it goes down to I think as low as 15 for a sprint, and then it scales up from there. It might. Does anybody know if it's more than that for like a 70.3 or an Ironman?
Yeah. It's like 85, 90.
Is
What?
it?
Really? For the
No,
day?
I just made that
no.
up.
Just made
Oh
that
my
up.
gosh. No. I don't remember.
I have no idea.
But it doesn't retroactively go. Like if you've already registered for
You're good.
races,
Okay. So
Yeah,
if
I
you
don't
registered
think-
for a sprint already at $25 for the one day, they're not gonna send you $10.
the other way around, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if you did it for like
You
an
don't-
Ironman, you don't
you don't
have
have
to.
to
I
pay
don't think
more.
you
Okay.
have to pay more.
No.
So that was a small thing, and then they created all these different tiers of membership. So that one day license is now called a bronze membership, and then it goes all the way up to, and this is the one where there has the most pushback, I guess, is the platinum level of membership. So the basic standard membership that we all have, the year-long membership, is now the equivalent of their silver membership. There's a gold membership that brings with it a couple of perks. And then there is the platinum level, which was $400?
400.
$400 a year. And the biggest thing, this was rolled out like really quickly, not really telling too many people about it. And the biggest kind of noise I've heard from people is that level of membership is required for you to go to ITU World Championship. Any ITU World Championship event, if you're going to qualify for Team USA, you need to be this platinum level member. And all that kind of comes with that. When I first heard it, I actually thought that you got like that was covering either your race kit or the
Yep.
parade kit
Nothing. You don't get any.
kit that you're forced to buy, or your race membership or your race entry. And all it does is gives you like $100 holding like part $100 deposit, or I don't even know.
It's a Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, $100 deposit on your race entry for that race.
I also thought it was like either they give you the kit or the apparel, and then you just go race for the team.
Nope, they give
No.
you
But nothing. No.
You get nothing.
You get nothing and like it. So this actually reminded me of early on, we did a podcast on the 1%ers, and I forget which one of you guys talked about it. I think, Rich, it was you, right? The example of coffee.
I think it was
Yeah.
James. Oh, it was you? Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
like, there's a subset of it was actually both of you
Targeted
kind of hit on
marketing.
each of these things. But like, James, you said you gave a number to it, and you were like, there's 10% of the population who are willing to pay double or
Yeah, like
triple.
of your current customer base.
Yeah.
Like 10 to 20% are willing to pay like 4 to 5 times more.
Well, that lines up. They must have listened to our podcast, because
Yeah.
what they
Yeah.
did is they took their yearly membership and they jacked it up by
Well, except that they complained and now they had to rescind.
right.
But the caveat to that though is if they see the value.
Well, and that
There's,
is the value.
there's nothing
The value
extra. That's
is,
what I was
Yeah,
gonna,
they're
there's
not
nothing
giving
to do.
anything.
do you want to go to World Championships?
Mm.
And
How bad do you want to go?
right. And
Could you pay it like last minute?
No,
No.
because you have to be that level to qualify at your qualifying event. So this actually could potentially mean you have to be at that level for 2 years.
Right.
Because like if you qualify in 2024 for a 2025 race, you have to be platinum for both of those
Those
years.
races.
I should remember this from our previous episode, but is there cash awards for
No.
Worlds?
Not at the age group level.
Because then they should with this extra money. That could be enticing.
Yeah,
We
no,
don't know
this
how
is-
many people would be in that. How many people are on the USAT team?
So I tried to dig into this a little bit. It's really hard to find numbers because USAT or ITU, which is like the world governing body for triathlon, runs a handful of different world championship events. They run sprint and Olympic distance. They run what they call long distance, which is more like half, like a 70.3, and then they have ultra distance. But then they also have aquabike and aquathon. They have a winter cross world championships. There's all these different things, and to qualify for like triathlon worlds, like we had Aaron Birch on early on in the show. That was one of the, like he went to those. I think it was like Olympic distance worlds twice. I think Dr. John has qualified for worlds, and then COVID kind of shut that down on him. But like you have to be really fast to qualify for worlds in triathlon in that race. But other ones, like you're really like, I don't want to take anything away from the people who qualified, but like you can kind of do it. Like if that's your goal, pretty much.
Didn't you qualify?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
Like
then
I'm not
something
that good.
Top 10 or 15% of your age group.
I was trying to say he is
yeah.
good, but hey,
No, because I qualified in the aquabike.
Yeah.
Like you had to be top. I forget what you had to be in your age group at aquabike nationals, which there was only like, I don't know, 15 people in my age group
Right.
at that race. Like it didn't feel like a national level race. Like any Ironman race we've been to feels
More.
4 times bigger. Now, but that got you into long distance world championships. If you did the triathlon, you could have qualified in long distance aquabike championships. You could have qualified in Olympic distance aquabike champ. Like there's a lot of these world championships out there. And from talking to people at that race, there's a lot of them who like really enjoy, like that's their fun vacation time is to go to world championships, wherever it's going to be. And they meet up with the same people every year. And they kind of have this group of friends that they do it with. And like now I don't want to say you're pricing them out of it because I think people are just going to pay. I think people are going to be loud and noisy about it now. And then they're just going to like, well, that's the way it is.
well, I thought that we just said they rescinded it.
They rescind
For now, until they figure it out.
So earlier today, a couple hours ago, they posted that for 2024, you don't have to be that. And I didn't even read it carefully enough, which is, I should have probably that we're talking about it. I don't even know if it means, I think it's like if you already qualified, like in 2023 for 2024 Worlds, you don't have to like upgrade to platinum. But I don't know if that's the case.
If you're going to go 24 to
If
25.
you're going to go
24 to
24 to 25, they said that they'll let everybody know before the
Yeah.
time that they actually race to qualify.
Right. So before the qualifying for 2025 starts,
They're going to let
gonna have it
everybody know.
figured out.
Yeah. But right now, you don't have to pay unless you want to pay, and then they're going to give you, I think, like some free stuff.
Right. And there is a whole list of, you guys, features and benefits
Yeah.
for being in that platinum membership. But I don't know. It seems to me to point to a bigger problem at USA Triathlon.
It's just not a smart way of rolling this out. You don't go 400% more.
It's more than four. Wasn't a
It's-
yearly membership $60?
Yeah, it's
Yeah. So it's that regular
90,
membership is
was it
going
90?
from I don't remember. I think it's going from 60 up to 100 or 85. And then that's just for the, apples to apples change. And then it's this new platinum level.
Or 600% more,
Yeah.
700% more.
That's
You just
huge.
don't do that. I'm just it's like backwards. You don't have the thought process. Okay, my gym has increased its price
Right.
a little bit.
Here's a great example.
Our
property taxes, right? Has anybody had their property taxes ever go down? No. I've never had a year where they've stayed the same. But it goes up just these little tiny, and sometimes they feel like big amounts, but it's not, I don't have my property taxes double. Right?
And it's kind of late to tell everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to start racing now. They've already all paid for whatever they're going to do.
Right.
Right.
What about I had an issue with I actually had 2 accounts going on 2 different emails, and I had to have them merge them with my coaching once I got my coaching and stuff done. And for whatever reason, I paid for a 3-year membership. So now I'm assuming, but I don't know, does that 3-year membership is good
you're not
until
going to
20?
Worlds. No Worlds for you.
It's going until
I'm going to
20.
decline my invitation as well
It goes until 2025.
for financial reasons only.
It goes to 2025, but now am I automatically a silver until then? I don't know
I
what
just
they're
want to
gonna
be
do.
at the fly on the wall on that meeting that they had and be like,
Mhm.
okay, guys, let's look at the numbers.
Right, and we're gonna get to that in a second.
This is gonna go well. The meeting after is not the meeting
I'll
where
tell
they
you that.
decided to let's look. Okay, so we're charging 85. We want more money.
How the meeting went? The meeting went. We're screwed. We're
Yeah.
losing a lot of
They're-
money.
and that's blew my mind. They have
Yeah.
been operating at about a $2 million loss every
Yeah.
year for the last
It's crazy.
4 or 5 years.
How do they continue to operate? I don't get it.
And their budget is not big enough to absorb that's 10% of their budget. They're
Yeah.
operating 10% over what revenue is.
Wonder what their biggest cost is.
Salaries, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it's. I mean, those people. It seems to me like they're making a lot, but I have no idea what CEOs actually make.
I thought that's what the thing said. That was.
So I mean, the smart thing would have been to at
No,
least
only for the last 2 years. So in
2?
21, their revenue was 17 and their expenses were 15. So
Okay, that's
yeah.
well, it has the difference, right?
Yeah. it
No, that's what I'm
shows the
saying.
difference.
Yeah,
They
so
have
you're
a
at
2,
2, and then keep going.
and that's the last 2 years. So
Okay, keep going,
and
though.
then that's it.
No, keep scrolling
That's it.
down.
Oh, the other way.
Mhm.
They broke even, pretty much.
So what year was the last year they made money? 2017.
They made money in 2017, and
So since 2019, they've been hemorrhaging lots of money.
How do you continue?
I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. It's
no,
a
it
weird.
says 21. They made money. They go back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay. I'm
It's
sorry.
not-
I read that then wrong. So
No, they have.
But this year, 2022, they lost a lot of money. So
And that's the thing. It's hard to figure out because of COVID and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But I would imagine that the amount they make and the amount they spend, right?
Yeah.
They don't need to go up 400%.
right. But I mean, how many people in the so
5.
how many? I'd like to know how many people are members of USAT. Of those, how many are going to actually get that
Go there.
that platinum membership? Wouldn't you just make more if you took everybody's membership fee and raised it $20
Right.
versus trying to create these levels and
But
now
that-
you create all this concern, everybody gets angry
And
doesn't sign up.
confusion.
Yeah, well, for sure.
What is it going to cost for this race?
I mean, this is what the finance people do.
Yeah, they didn't have a
They're
good
not doing a
risk.
good job.
They didn't have a very
but if
good
all the
risk
money is going to the
analyst.
CEOs and the 3 top
But
people,
I mean, it's
the
not
finance people aren't.
even their top. If you add up all their C-suite and stuff, it's just over $1 million, right? I think.
Just the top 3. We don't know
Just
what the rest of them.
No, they have
But
like
it says
5 people.
wages
They
and
have everybody.
salaries. Wages and salaries is like over $4 million.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's going to be a big chunk of.
So I don't know what the answer is other than I threw this out there, a hostile takeover with
Yeah.
the quad pod
Let's do it.
becomes leaders
USAT
of
quad.
USAT.
I mean, only if it's pennies on the dollar. I mean,
yeah.
goes for sale. I mean,
Yeah, but it's not. It's a nonprofit. Like it's not a.
Yeah.
I guess I don't even know how that works. Like it can't go away, right? They can't go bankrupt, can they? Or does somebody else come in? Like USAT doesn't just handle our racing. Like USAT is in charge of the Olympic program and stuff like that. Like,
are they too big to fail?
I don't know.
Sounds like they're failing.
So
Sounds like they're failing, but they're not that big.
what I'm wondering
On
is if your
paper, at least.
revenues are 20 and you're spending 25, 5 has to come out of some bank somewhere.
Yeah.
So they
Right.
will. It's not like they're going to go bankrupt, but somebody's just going to stop.
It's when they can't have access to credit.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
party
someone's
ends.
going to stop giving them money.
That's
Yeah. So I don't know what the answer is.
The answer is they need to 10x their lending. So now that the bank is stuck with them, they
right.
can't. Was it
They
something
just
like
keep
if
paying
So what are you saying?
themselves
You
more.
borrow a ton of money?
borrow a ton that now
You can last
you're not
for
the
20
problem.
years.
Like the bank is like, ooh, we have the problem. We can't let you go under. We can't write off 200 million in debt. We can write off 2 million, but 200.
How can they? Are they going to allow them to borrow that much?
They won't.
What are their assets? Like, what do
They
they
have no
have?
assets,
They don't
nothing.
have any.
You just
so
have to
like,
find a bank that'll approve
how do
it.
they like even borrow that much?
There's
They can't.
there's some people who've made their entire careers out of this.
Those people scare me.
Yeah.
Those aren't my kind of people.
Was it? I think I forget what the saying is. Like if you owe the bank 200,000, you have a problem. If you owe the bank 200 million, the bank has a problem. Something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
So last night's meeting, they did away with the, or they paused.
No,
They
today they-
basically paused because
Today
of
they
the
did.
outrage from last night's meeting.
But everyone else has to pony up if they're going to renew
I
their
think
membership.
that's what it comes down to. Yeah, you got to pony up, and like I think the membership is ultimately going to have to dig them out of this hole, but they have to just stop spending on. There's the one thing I heard that was a big increase over the last couple of years has been what the cost of insurance is for them, because USAT is covering all of the sanctioned events with their insurance policy. So if that goes up, I can understand how that would be almost like a unforeseen. Like my medical insurance has gone up crazy amount, right? Like that's just something that whoever's paying for it has to eat. So you can't figure out what that's going to be necessarily year to year, but there's other example. Like they were at Endurance Exchange a couple weeks ago, which was this big, conference that they were all behind, and they were talking how great everything's going and everything's, roses. And they sent like 10 or 15 people from USAT
That's what they
there.
were saying. I read an article. They were like, "Does everybody have to travel?"
Right.
Because their travel expense was really high too.
Yeah. So
The party ends. They gotta
Yeah.
lean
Yeah.
up a little bit now.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's got to be some large scale changes.
And there's
at-
probably some, just bigger picture issues where everyone's saying the sport triathlon is just not growing like it used to, and the
Right.
barrier to entry is so high. So I don't know if they're just leaning into then the fact that most people who tend to do triathlon tend to be more affluent. So they're
Yeah.
like, well, they have the money.
But your bike
But-
price hasn't gone up 600% in 1 year. So like they're not logical. There's no like that. That's why that conversation to me I don't compute it.
But you brought it up that the annual membership fee hasn't gone up in like 10 years or
Since
something.
what,
Yeah.
15 or 16 or
So
something like
it's catching up.
that? Okay, but
Adjust for
and-
inflation.
Right. And if you told me like it went from 60 to 100, and if they had done it $5 a year or $10 a year, everybody would have been just like, oh, yeah,
Well, it's,
everything's getting more expensive.
And I don't
But-
know that those people that are going to compete for a spot in the Olympics and all that they're that affluent, like you
Oh,
said.
those people are not.
They're
those
not.
people are living like.
So they're
yeah.
the ones that are getting charged the $400 for essentially nothing.
What can we look up that'd be a good proxy for what was the price of something in 2015? And that
well, hold on a second. Let me ask this question. What's the price of registering for a race?
Mhm.
That hasn't gone
That
up.
hasn't changed, right?
Oh,
I mean, it's
you don't
Has
think
it?
so?
I don't
It's
know.
changed,
I
but
was
it's
reading like
not.
full
I don't know.
Ironmans used to be like $300
No.
or something.
Not
Never.
not in 15.
No, it was like 750 or 650. It wasn't.
I would say I've noticed just in the couple of years that I've been doing it regularly, I feel like you had no problem finding a sprint race for $100. And now I feel like if I see that, I consider it a bargain. I feel like Olympic races. What did New
Yeah,
Jersey
but that's
State?
because
Do you remember what New Jersey State cost last year? Because when I did it a couple of years ago, it was like 140, 140, and I feel like it's
Yeah.
like 160, 170.
I want to say it was close to 200.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I do think do think races are going up.
But that's the
So-
quality of the races. You're no longer putting on like the races that you're talking about that were around here, Pequannock and some others.
Those just went under.
They just went under because they didn't
Raise
they
the
didn't
price
go
of the
with
race.
price and then put in the other stuff that you needed to get, the road closures,
Yeah.
whatever,
And that costs money.
WAG and all this other stuff, and that's why,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think races, they have gone up, but not USAT gone up. I mean, races used like legitimate races,
Okay,
the ones
yeah,
that I
but-
first
all
raced,
right.
like Rev 3 Quasi.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
they
love
weren't
that race.
I
don't
know you
You-
bring
It's
it
the
up
only one I
all the
remember.
time. It's like the toe. It's the
It was
race in
it
the
was
Why
the
do I feel like
first-
this is
but
the first
they
time I heard
sold
this race,
to-
though?
But they
What?
sold to
No.
Iron.
He
He
talks
talks about it all the
his
time.
real first.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the
Um,
real first.
yeah.
Oh, so it's like been blocked
No.
out though selectively.
I mean,
No?
that was just my first race.
Yeah.
It was an Olympic one,
Yeah.
but they sold to Ironman, and those prices were $200-300.
Yeah. The
The logistics.
but I don't think we can make an apples to apples comparison between the current $60, or I think it was 60. I don't know why that number stuck in my head. $60 a year USAT membership to the $400 platinum membership. I think we have to look at
Yeah.
what's the new regular yearly,
membership.
and that's I think 100. So 60 to 100, big increase, almost 50% increase, or almost 100% increase, right?
But bike prices have doubled or more than doubled.
no.
I think what they approached wrong, like Ironman has their Nirvana and
experience.
XC, but they do give to some degree
Quite a
more
bit, yeah.
benefits, right? Nirvana maybe not as much,
The
but
platinum that has a lot of check marks in their
Yeah.
boxes, like.
but it's just not resonating then with.
No.
What does it
I
give,
I
the
think
platinum?
people got really stuck on. I don't have my phone. I think people got really stuck on the worlds thing at that
Yeah.
platinum level. I think that was it. I think if you had just had a $400 platinum thing like the Nirvana, people would have been like, "All right, cool. Like if you got it, spend it. Like
Right.
fine." But not as a hey, you
How
want to
you
create,
have
you want to
to.
compete as a member of Team USA. You got to be here.
This mandatory,
Yeah.
yeah, you're like punishing people for
and
success.
for those
Yeah,
people,
exactly.
for those people to get what they're after, they're not getting anything else, right? Like, yeah, are you getting some kind of VIP tent at nationals or something? Sure, okay, but that's like that's what I'm saying. Those are Nirvana things. Those aren't trying to get you they aren't adding anything to your actual race experience, right? And these are people, if you're trying to qualify for Worlds, that's what you're worried about is the race itself. And now it's like, okay, to participate, you got to be in this category.
So it's almost like they try to make their own like version of a pro card, but then you don't get like free races with like you do with
That's
the pro card.
That's a good way to look at it.
But they should have maybe just said, "Here is your USAT like pro card,"
Elite card or something.
but then
they
you
call it
at
something
least
like
get
that.
like entry to race.
Yeah, they still
Yeah.
have to pay for the races.
Because then the Ironman race, if you have a pro card, you get races free or something, or
It
you pay-
includes.
you
Doesn't it
you
includes
pay
a certain amount of
you
races.
pay Ironman $1,000 or $1,200 a year, and that's your race entry for as many races as you want to do.
That's what
The
they
good thing is they'll hear this podcast and then they'll be like, "That's a good idea."
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Can
you
you
might
imagine?
get phone calls.
Watch
That's-
exactly. Imagine like they're like, "Oh, so we're announcing the
Give
pro
us a
card."
call if you need some ideas.
Yeah.
We should just become consultants.
Oh, that's the best gig going,
It
isn't
is,
it?
'cause you
attach
yeah.
that to your name. Oof.
Yeah.
Except I guarantee you this gold, silver, platinum thing was a consultant firm that came up with this idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they've had
But
to be
now
in the
they
room
can
and
go away and like
"Mm."
nobody's going to be like,
Yeah.
oh,
No one's gonna. Yeah.
XYZ Consulting. What idiots they are. No,
They
it's
just need to
USATs.
change their name.
Right. USAT's a bunch of idiots. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think it's going to be, I think people are just going to suck it up and pay if that's what their thing is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And one thing we didn't say, this has in no way affects anything to do with Ironman's World Championships.
Mhm.
So those are like, most people don't know that USAT even has like a national,
Yeah.
Team USA program. Like you see the people in the kits, but I don't think people realize like how you get that kit, how you get to those races and stuff, is because Ironman is such a big elephant in the room that they just, you hear worlds and you think Kona or whatever. So.
All right, we solved that problem.
Yeah. All right. Give us a call, USAT. We're here all the time. We'll listen. We'll help you
Next
out.
level
Easy as that.
consultants are.
Ooh, that's a good name for a consultant. Next level consultants.
Yeah.
We'll help you
It's probably out
elevate
there.
your. Yeah,
We
for sure.
are,
Just listen to the podcast. Click on the link in the bottom. Follow.
We have a
Like
very,
our
we
show.
have a very reasonable fee.
Yeah. All right. So, James, this was your idea. Talk to us about this.
Oh,
Well-
that's not my strong point.
No, that's okay.
I like
Talking.
to,
on
I
a
just like to
podcast?
have the
I know.
idea, and then you guys, take it over.
Mhm.
I mean, actually, the idea was from another podcast we had where you guys were just talking about something, and then you were saying something about. I don't know what the episode was about, but you had,
Saying something.
We were talking.
just
It was
I
an
was listening
episode
at one
once.
point.
and he
At
was
some point.
listening to it.
I listened at one point, and Greg was like, "Yeah, the best way to really maximize your run is to get really strong on the bike." And I was like, it like really struck me because I signed up for like every run race between like the last
You're
2
like,
years.
oh no, I'm doing it wrong.
I was like, wait, what? Like, don't run more, like bike more. And then I thought about that. I was like, that really struck me.
Uh-huh.
And then I started like doing a little deep dive on listening to some other podcasts, and they were talking about bike and bike gains. I was like, this makes so much more sense that if you can increase your power on the bike and hold a higher sustained power over that the bike portion, and it's not as hard,
I think that's the key.
then the run
Right,
you're
yeah.
gonna perform a lot better.
Right.
So that was the genesis of this. So a lot of times, because I always felt like my run was very weak, and so I was like, I'm gonna just keep running, sign up for longer and longer distance races, do more and more run volume as much as possible, clear the distances I've never cleared, and I'm just gonna get better at running. And then I've had races where I just blew up on the run because it's like I ran so much.
Yeah.
What happened? But it was like looking back, my bike was not strong enough at the time, or I was trying to hold power that I had no business of trying to hold. So I thought it was interesting. Yeah, you want to get better at the run, look at your bike first.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like making it real simple to get to think about to begin with is you want your bike to be as easy as possible, right? So that you can express whatever your run fitness is. And that's where you were running into a problem was you had the run fitness, but because of the effort the bike took out of you or the toll the bike took out of you, you couldn't express that run fitness, no matter how good it was.
He just summed it up.
That's
Mhm.
it.
That's
Okay.
it.
That's
Thanks
it.
for
That's what
listening,
you wrote.
folks.
And that's a wrap.
I mean, this was all a plan so we could have this episode now. Like I just did
Yeah.
all that in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
thinking about this topic beforehand.
always been on your mind, but
Yeah.
just now came to fruition.
Yeah.
I just knew all along. I was like, oh, this is gonna make a good episode. What if I just
You've been planning it out.
keep my bike really weak?
Well, that's James. But
Uh-huh.
do college, professional, any other kind of high school runners cross train on the bike to keep the run volume down but get better at running?
So I would normally say no, because I think when you look at that level of athlete, right, college, you're dealing with teenagers and young 20-year-olds. Yes, there's injury problems, but it's not the same as when they're old like us, right?
Hey,
Listen, they're half our age.
Hey.
Like there's no
And then it's a big difference.
huge
Yeah.
difference, right? The second thing is we're doing triathlon, right? And so we have to think of it as a overall sport and not as three separate individual sports, right? Who is that? Brett Sutton. It's one sport, and your goal is to get across the finish line as fast as possible, which means get through all three of them as quick as you can. And that doesn't mean being the fastest runner or being the fastest cyclist. It means just covering the distance as fast as you can. So my original answer would have been, no, they're not doing it. There's a girl who won cross-country Nats this year. Her name's Parker Valby, and she runs for University of Florida. and they had an interview with her. She was only doing about 35 miles a week, I think they said, in
That's
the
it?
lead up.
Running.
Say more
Now,
words.
she is a national
She was-
NCAA national champion
She was
in
cycling too.
the cross country, and she's been back and forth with this other girl from NC State in the 5K on the track. Like, she is world class. 35 miles a week is not anything for them. Like, that's
Yeah, they usually do like 100.
yeah, I mean, maybe not quite 100 but close to it. You know, you're up over 60, 70, whatever. She's at half that, and she's cross training. You know, but she had a history of injuries. Her and her coaches were trying to figure out ways to keep the injury at bay, still get the key running sessions in, but supplement the aerobic work otherwise. And, you know, now does that mean there's going to be some huge movement to doing that? I don't think so. But where we're coming from as older athletes, you know, and I consider pretty much any real triathlete probably is an older athlete, right? Like, there's not tons of 20-year-olds out there doing tries. So once you get to 30, like, you're going to have those kind of injury issues that you have to keep track of and be on top of. So, you know, there's that. I think it really comes down to, though, by doing this cross training, it's not going to make you a faster runner. It's just going to allow you to run faster in a triathlon than you would if you didn't have that strong bike or swim.
Yeah, and I want to
It's not
commend.
gonna it's not gonna make you a faster runner, but get you to run faster in a triathlon.
Faster,
Yes.
longer.
Yes.
You can run faster for a longer period. Yes.
Yeah,
'Cause you're
after
do-
a
But
bike.
after
isn't
doing
that
a
what
bike.
a faster
No,
runner is?
after a bike.
Okay.
I
In
think
the-
those are two
Yep.
different things. Like, I think if you take a runner, you know, like a pure runner, and say, okay, run me a 10K as fast as you can. Cool. Let's say they can run a 30-minute 10K, right? Really fast person. And then you take that runner and you put them on a bike for an hour ahead of time and then make them run. They are not going to run. They're going to probably run. They might run 45 minutes, 50 minutes, right? That's a 20-minute delta between those two things. What I think increasing your bike power, making you a better cyclist, getting you a better aerobic engine is going to do is take you down to a 34-minute 10K runner off the bike. And now there's only a 4-minute delta between your open time and that's what I'm talking about seeing. You know, like, James training just for running, just for doing a half marathon might be, you know, what do you remember what your Philly half time was, or the Love Run?
I think the Love Run. I think that was actually like 1:58.
No, it was faster than that. Yeah, it was. Okay.
Because
All right, let's use Maryland then. Maryland, what's your fastest?
What are you
half
trying to prove
marathon?
here?
You'll
Think
see it in a
like
second.
145, 142, something like that.
Right? And if we look at your history of half Ironman runs, they've been getting better. And now, like, you went 153 or 5
Yeah.
at
150 something.
yeah, like, well, 150s. Like, that's closing that gap between your open PR and so you're expressing more of your run fitness in a triathlon run. That's what I'm saying the cross training is doing for you. I don't really think that a triathlon approach is going to make you necessarily that
runner.
faster open runner.
Yeah, this is all. I like Rich's outside the box thinking. It's like, is this a training protocol to make a runner faster? This was in the context of, in the sport of triathlon,
Right.
how can you improve your run?
Well, I just
One
didn't
way-
want people listening and being like, "Oh, my run needs to get better. I'm going to start biking."
It won't hurt, but it's not going to make you
Right.
faster.
I think there might be some points sometimes
Yeah.
in your training where it would be beneficial.
Like?
Coming back from injury and trying to build up an aerobic base when you can't handle the volume of the running, I think is a great time to be cross training. If you have a lot of time too, like, I don't know how much, like, okay, so let's think like 100-mile a week runner, right? Pure marathoner, 100 miles a week, who can rip off 7-minute miles, right? 7-minute miles times 100 is 700 minutes a week, right, of running. So that's what? Just 11 hours
change.
and 10 minutes. What if you've got 15 hours a week and you're like, I want to train? Like, what if you not even replace, what if you supplement that? You know, you go from 11 to 10, but now you can bike for 5 hours a week.
So that would make you a faster runner.
That, I think, would.
But then
If
you
you
just
can
said
recover,
but then you're contradicting your earlier statement.
which was what?
that biking or increasing your FTP or getting to be a better biker will make you express your run fitness better.
In a triathlon.
In a
In a
triathlon.
triathlon. It's not gonna improve your running in an open run.
But
But
then you
you
asked
just
me for
said-
specific examples where maybe it
So this is
it
what
would.
So
So in
but
those
you-
cases, okay, I understand where you're going. I don't think a person who's running 40 miles a week and is like, that's all I got time for, I don't think they should take away from that 40 miles a week to add a couple hours of biking. That I don't think will make them faster. Does that make sense?
It's only if you have extra time.
Right.
You
Right.
put in the required volume.
For your
And then you
run,
just
and then
have-
you just add more.
And you've reached that, like, I just can't recover from more running, right? Like there is a point where you start to break your body down at, let's say it's 70 miles a week, and you're like, I just can't get used to more than 70 miles a week without getting injured, but I still have time. What can I do? Sure, swim, bike. Like, that's general aerobic fitness that is going to help and isn't going to hurt your running, and maybe will make you faster, or maybe will help you get past that 70-mile plateau. I don't have the answer to that, but those are specific cases that I could see adding biking to, or some kind of other aerobic activity to help. It might be running on an Ultra G. It might be running on that lever system that people are starting to use. It might be running, water rope. I don't know, like something other than straight up running. Yeah.
So what are some common mistakes you see when people are trying to improve their run in triathlon, especially with your own athletes or athletes in the past? Doesn't have to be current.
what about your
think
pro athletes,
too much-
James? What are some common
Doing
mistakes
too
you
much
see with
hard
those?
running.
Yeah.
Too much
Signing
fast
up,
running.
signing up for a lot of races and trying to PR them all.
This is a current athlete you have?
I'm just saying these might be your pros.
Yeah. I mean, pros,
Let's wait to be. We have to wait and see how that turns out.
I mean, I think also surging is an issue on the bike. The toll it takes, I've experienced that firsthand.
So you're just saying, like over a longer period, that just increases the wattage you put out. So that's going into your legs and you're burning matches.
The match burning is a real thing. Like, you really do only have a certain amount, and once you deplete that, it's really hard to come back. From that.
Is it possible? Have you known someone who has?
To come back from it? No.
No, everybody has a set number of matches. Now, you might have more than I do, but we all have a set number.
I don't know if you talk to Goggins. You can have no matches and go 300 miles.
I mean, he'll go 300 miles, but at what cost? Like, he's not going to finish it as fast as he could have if he didn't burn the matches.
Well, you're just saying there's no way to come back. Like, there's no recovering. There's no finishing.
I think there's
not finishing, but like James finished Muscle Man, but
Yeah,
that was like a trip through
but it
hell
wasn't
for him.
optimal.
Yeah.
Right. That wasn't his best possible performance on
Yeah.
that day.
That didn't express my fitness.
No.
No, not at all.
Or did it?
It expressed your strength.
Yeah, right. And that's what Goggins shows.
Mm-hmm.
It expresses his inner
Mental-
demons and
mental
mental strength.
strength.
Right. But I think going back to your original question, James, was like, what mistakes? Like, Marilyn, talk about what you just said. Like, I think that got covered
Training too hard, running too fast all the time, thinking that's going to give you fitness, and it might temporarily, but in the long run, no.
Feeling like every run workout you should feel depleted,
Right.
destroyed.
That's the biggest mistake I think the most people make.
up.
Yes.
And then people don't know how to really run easy. I
Yeah.
feel like
I think that's the thing,
it took
right?
me a long time to really know what that actually is.
Yeah.
That's
It's
a
not.
big. People think it's easy, but it's easy-ish, and that's still not the right easy.
Yeah. 80-20 is definitely not going to have 100% of your runs be hard. That's just not what it should be.
What percent does it?
It's 80-20.
What?
It's 80-20.
So what percent?
80-20.
20.
20% hard.
Thank you.
Didn't you just
I don't
listen
even
and
think
read
I
I
the
don't
book
think it
and
needs to
write the
even be
book?
that hard. Like,
Yeah.
And the other thing I think, like, we're taking just a straight up triathlon approach, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the
Yes.
Okay.
focus.
Yeah.
are you
resentful? Are you angry at me? Did I do something?
I think Rich was hoping that
Who's
we actually
the meme
unlock.
guy at the table?
Yeah.
I think Rich was actually hoping that this was the episode. Like, oh, I don't have to run anymore.
Pour
Like, I
him
could just
another
do something
drink,
else.
maybe. I don't know.
He's genuinely
I don't even remember
disappointed.
what I was. Oh, no, I don't remember.
Yes,
You were going to say that it doesn't have to be that specific.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that specific. Oh,
for triathlon only.
right. Triathlon running is slow running,
Yeah.
right? Triathlon running is not fast. No one is PRing their 5K in a sprint triathlon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, why necessarily train like a runner? You know, so if you see runners doing, you know, these super fast repeats, or you see runners, you know, 5K runners doing repeats at 5K pace, like, if you're a triathlete, do you need to be doing repeats at 5K pace? Like, what does that get you? Probably nothing other than more fatigue than you need.
Strava points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Be the local legend somewhere. Like, I think that even 80-20 is probably too high. I think if you gave it to me, I'm gonna lean more of that 20% of intensity onto the swim and bike and take more of it away from the run. You know, and because I think that if you can come out of the swim feeling like you really didn't do anything, you're in a great spot. And if you have a stronger bike, same idea, you're going to be faster. It's going to take less time. It's the biggest chunk of the race, or it should be, and you want to be the fastest there. And it's really easy to get kind of fast there without too much like potential to harm yourself. And to get really fast on the run, there's the potential to harm yourself and take yourself out of the game for long periods of time.
Yeah, it's got the most physical cost.
Mm-hmm.
So, something you said about like the sprints being, you know, not necessary because you're not doing that in a try, right? But I think probably outside of the episode, we talked about the numbers of the power you put out on a run going uphill
Mm-hmm.
and sprinting, and something being like similar or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the question is sprinting giving you that hill fitness? So yeah, you're not
no,
PRing
I see what
your
you're
5,
saying. And so the only piece I'm going to add, yes, it just what's the goal of it with that kind of training? And for me, the goal of that like really fast stuff is more neuromuscular and like efficiency kind of things. Like it's improving form. The hill is improving some strength, but the hill is really I like hill running because it improves form with even less impact than regular running, right? Your foot's not falling as far when it's going uphill. So there's less of that impact. It kind of forces you into good form. So that's why I like it, but it doesn't have to be like a lot of it to get that neuromuscular benefit. So you're getting that form kind of check. You're getting that speed, that foot turnover, but you don't need a ton of it to get that. So you don't need to do these big, really killer workouts, and you still get the benefit of it. Same thing like, you know, I give all of my athletes tons of like spin ups on the bike. Like, let's get the cadence up. I don't give you 20 minutes of 120 cadence. It's like 10 seconds. Like, let's just teach those muscles how to fire really fast. And then it naturally kind of improves, you know?
And if you do have to work on hill work, you're not going to do 5K sprints because you just do hills then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just the end result of doing the hills, like you said, less impact, better form,
Right. So that's what you would do.
neuromuscular.
So I mean, we've talked about in the past that FTP is not the end all be all, but that's basically what we want to try to improve to get our bike power, change our curve, right? Like if we can get our FTP up, then whatever percentage of that we need for either half Ironman or Ironman, that number goes up, then that percentage is a higher number, and then we can hold that power longer and then finish that part of the race faster, be feeling fresher for the run. So how would you structure? I mean, I saw the genesis of this idea was then I then stumbled upon this 28-day FTP like increase like cycling program. I was like, 28 days.
Oh yeah, where'd you find that on like Swift or something?
28 days.
I was on a podcast. I can't remember. It was like the Train Smarter podcast or something. I forget what it was called, but it was like, they just laid it out. It's like 7-day weekly program for 4 weeks.
Okay.
Increase your FTP. And so they had this kind of
And so what did that look like?
protocol. I don't remember anymore. I kind of outlined it here,
Great
but
research.
You brought it up.
so
Is it this one that you have here, number 4?
Yeah, it's a mixture of some VO2 efforts and stretching out your endurance, sub-threshold rides. I think it was basically those 3 things. So
Yeah.
mixing in I think it was 1 or 2 VO2 efforts, 2 endurance kind of rides, and then 2 sub-threshold rides.
Right. So we can call it sub-threshold, like either threshold work or tempo, depending on how high of a percentage of FTP they're getting to.
80 to 90%.
Yeah, I guess 80, 90%. So that's like tempo.
But yeah, you basically just kind of repeated that for 4 weeks, and you're pretty much guaranteed a
bump in FTP.
little FTP
Did they
boost.
say how much of a bump?
200%.
I know. I'm just curious what they
I don't
said.
remember.
Oh my God! What good is this research?
Did this also specify for what, like, is it a what kind of biker is it?
Well, this is
What kind of
basically
runner?
this was designed for cyclists. So that's, I mean,
So
if you're doing
any-
6 days a week of biking, it's going to be tough to squeeze that in as a triathlete. But
Yeah.
they were saying how you can modify like your easy days with something else easy, and then
Yeah.
mix the hard with the hard. But yeah, I mean, it was purely if you're focused on trying to get your FTP up as quick as possible, this is how you should structure it. So I thought maybe
You want to be our guinea pig?
I mean, I this flipped a switch in my head to say, all right, this season I'm gonna
Do this.
As
do
soon
my
as
bike
all
workouts.
your, your
In earnest.
100 miles
Yeah.
of running races are done in May.
I mean, that's gotta be even better. Run a lot and fix your bike.
Where are you fitting it all in?
I don't know. I just gotta stop sleeping or something.
Yeah, because that's not important.
That's going to help for sure.
And that's gonna be the next episode. How to improve your triathlon performance? Sleep without training.
I'm going to listen to that one.
I mean, these recommendations are all good, right? Like, so VO2 max is kind of the top of your aerobic ceiling. Once you get think of VO2 max as like all out 6 to 8 minute effort, as much as you can do, right? Like fall over on your bike, pass out, whatever. That's the top of your aerobic ceiling. It's how much oxygen you can get, how much oxygen you can use. And the higher that is, the higher up, like that is going to bring up everything underneath it.
Yeah.
And
some of it's genetic,
as
right?
long as you potentially train it. Yes, it is genetic,
But it is trainable.
but they're learning that it's way more trainable than we thought in the past. Originally people had said like, oh, you can increase your VO2 max by like 10% because it's so genetically programmed. It's way more than that. So people were using, I don't want to say people were using VO2 max as like, oh, I guess my VO2 max is only 50. I guess I'm never going to be good. Like that's so far from the case. But that's ultimately the ceiling. Like you can never get, just by the definition of things, you can never get your FTP over your VO2 max. So if your FTP gets close to it, the only way to get your FTP up any higher is to bring that VO2 max up, so that there's room to grow it.
And I think how I heard it described was it's like having a 4-cylinder engine versus a 8-cylinder. You can have a high revving 4-cylinder engine, but there's only so much power that can make. So someone with a 4-cylinder engine can be faster than someone with the V8, but that person with the V8 has just more potential to express more power because they've built this big engine. They just might not be able to use it yet. So
Right.
the increasing your VO2 max is basically building yourself this bigger engine.
Yeah.
And then hopefully through the rest of your training, then you're able to use that engine.
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it.
I didn't come up with that myself.
And then stretching out your endurance rides, like surprisingly, the adaptations you get from long zone 2 endurance rides and even below zone 2 are things that will actually raise your VO2 max. So the idea of doing VO2 max work to improve your VO2 max is sound, like you're going to get benefits, but you also get big VO2 max benefits from just long endurance rides. Because all the adaptations that come from endurance rides are things like increased stroke volume of your heart, increased size of your heart, better capillarization to the muscles. So you're bringing more blood to the muscles, increased mitochondrial density. Like all those things are about pulling oxygen into the cells. That's going to increase how much oxygen you can take in, right? So like those two things are hand in hand. And that's kind of where the whole polarized training model comes from. Work on both ends of that. Work on the low end with lots of aerobic, low end aerobic work, and a little bit of really dialed in VO2 max work, and you bring up both of those, and you're bringing up that aerobic capacity.
Yeah. The problem is that most people don't do this low end aerobic easy enough.
Right, because it takes time. Like it's, you eventually get to a point where like an hour of zone 2 isn't getting you all that much anymore.
Yeah.
It's not creating a stimulus to create change. But I mean, all those things are key points to bring up your bike FTP.
Now the next type, tempo and threshold. Those are my least favorite workouts.
But that's what we need the most as triathletes in the races that we do. And, except for even not really Ironman, but 70.3 races are right in that.
That explains a lot.
Sub-threshold range.
The workout I avoid the most is what we actually do in a race, huh?
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah. That's getting your, what's often called time to exhaustion. Like how long can you actually hold those high percentages?
So what are those kind of intervals or workouts? How are those usually structured?
They get longer and longer based on what your time to exhaustion is. So if you can hold FTP for 40 minutes, then do stuff like 4x10s and 2x20s and stuff like that at higher and higher powers.
What does it mean to hold your FTP for 40 minutes? Isn't your FTP like your 20-minute?
Okay, so FTP was originally an
hour thing.
Supposed to be an hour.
Yeah.
Very few people can actually hold their FTP for an hour in real life, right?
Have you ever tried?
Yeah, so it's really
hard.
so you either define it as your 1 hour max power, right, which is fine, but then to test it you need to do a 1 hour all out time trial, which.
So you're saying how long you can hold something for 40 minutes?
No, different people can hold their FTP. So FTP is this quasi steady state where below FTP you can hold it for a really long period of time, and just a little bit above FTP you can't hold it for very long at all. It's like this tipping point, right? It's that LT2.
That second inflection point of your lactate?
Right. So below it, the lactate is barely climbing. Above it, the lactate is climbing really quick. So it's that. Now, so we take it as a definition of FTP. Some people can hold that for 30, 35 minutes, and other people can hold it for 70 minutes. And that's very trainable. So if you're that 35-minute person, you would be in a much better, your training plan would be much better off to focus on trying to extend it from 35 to 45 to 55 to 65 minutes. Don't increase the power, increase the time.
Right.
If you're at 70 minutes, nobody's going to really hold their FTP for too much longer than that. So now start bumping up the power. Do shorter intervals, a little bit higher. Do them at 101, 102, 103% FTP and try and pull that thing up.
But 70 minutes isn't the specific sweet spot, or it is?
70 minutes is not.
So it's like an hour and a half or whatever. It doesn't matter. So if 60 minutes, you're not going to hold longer than...
At that FTP number.
That FTP.
Right. Yeah, and you're not going to hold it. Nobody's going to hold it longer than 70 or so.
It was interesting, though, what I heard was when we're building these workouts, if you're more novice or intermediate, you're doing, 5, 10, maybe work up to 2x20s, something like that. But
I mean, 2x20s has been like forever like a sweet spot. Like I don't want to use that word sweet spot.
It hurts just to think about
it. Like 2x20s has been a go-to kind of workout.
But if you think that hurts, think about it. They said pros easily do 2x60-minute threshold workouts.
Do I look like a pro to you?
I don't know if I believe that.
That's a lot.
They might be. So here's the thing: they might be defining FTP different.
Yeah.
Like if we define FTP as results from a ramp test, and somebody else defines FTP as results from a 20-minute test, and somebody else defines it as maximum lactate steady state. Those are 3 different numbers that you can hold for 3 different periods of time.
All right.
Yeah, and they do so much testing that they...
Yeah. are dialed into that.
I just
a
can't
little
imagine
bit
doing an interval for 60 minutes and then be like, all right, do it
Do it
again.
Do it
again.
again.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing an FTP interval at 60 minutes,
Yeah.
whatever.
Right. You know,
It's
if
like
you're
an
doing
inflection point.
an
there.
hour at Ironman power, like that's still, an interval.
That's
right?
true.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I could do 2 of those.
2 half Ironman intervals to do a full Ironman.
I mean, you kind of got up to that,
Yeah.
close to that. So.
So that brings us, I think, just to the final part here.
Okay.
What's a good FTP or power to weight ratio, which kind of, I guess, normalizes it for everyone that's like respectable, I guess, to be in a good spot for
Mhm.
a race?
And a follow-up question, is it easier, and this is a poll, to drop weight or to increase FTP?
Increase FTP.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Increase
100%.
FTP.
I'd rather do that.
To a
Yeah,
certain
me too.
point. Yeah. All right. So Marilyn, you found some numbers on this. So what's a good power to weight ratio to target? So obviously power to weight ratio is usually in watts per kilo. Take your FTP, divide it by the number of your weight in kilograms, and that's your watts per kilo. So Marilyn, you found some numbers for us.
You pulled these from the chart, James,
Yes.
that I have?
Yeah.
So novice for a male would be 2.2 watts per kilo, female 1.8, intermediate male 3.3, female 2.8 watts per kilo. And if you're advanced, like James, male 4.4 and female 3.8. Elite 5.5 watts per kilo for a male, 4.8 watts per kilo for a female.
That's insane.
I know.
Those are
Crazy.
Yeah, right. Those are crazy town numbers when you start
Crazy
thinking about
numbers.
5.5 watts per kilo for, it's like, how long could I even hold that?
I'm
Yeah.
not sure of the numbers, but I
Or
simply,
have I ever? I don't know.
I simply looked at the male to female discrepancy difference.
I
And
mean, what
Well, it's interesting that the higher it goes,
the closer they get.
No, the novice, the females are closer.
Oh yeah.
Elites,
You're
the
right.
females are further away. That to me is surprising. But is it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's surprising, or yeah,
It's surprising because I would think that watts per kilo, like I would think that females would be able to build the FTP closer to males
Or maybe
Why
it's
do you
'cause
think so?
Maybe because men
at
can
elite levels.
get leaner since they're just carry less body fat in
Yeah.
general.
More
I
muscle.
think that's
So-
probably a big.
Yeah.
I think like if you looked at body fat percentages between novice and elite, the difference between males
That's not much.
is probably a bigger difference than the differences between females.
right?
Right? Like because of what you're talking about, females can only get to a certain, like their limit is going to be a couple of percentage points higher than males. So
Yeah.
even if they're both starting at about the same spot, the men have a bigger change that they could potentially go through.
Go through a bigger
Yeah.
okay.
So they're probably putting out like similar powers relative, to them. I don't want to say to their weight, but they're putting
But-
out decent power numbers. But
Yeah.
if you can adjust the weight number
I
easier,
mean, you also might just be like the force production, the maximum force production
That a
might
man
just be
can
different,
put out is different
Yeah.
than a female.
right? So
because we're just stronger.
I have read recently that females
Marilyn just
are
ignores
built
that, unfazed.
are built for endurance more than men.
well,
so
I mean,
take that.
absolutely. Like, look at the ultra running
Yeah.
field, right? Courtney
That one-
Dahlwalter is freaking a monster, and she's beating like their races, 200-mile races. She wins overall, right? And it seems like the longer the race, the closer that gap is
Right.
between males and females.
Mm.
So, for sure.
So I thought it was interesting to see where we stacked up in terms of power to weight ratios. I mean, most of you guys had some respectable numbers.
And
with
so
the exception
I
of-
would say that I think, and I sent this in the group chat. I think that you kind of could bump every like this chart was
Yeah.
just cycling stuff. I
It
think you
was.
could bump it like a whole
And I'm
category.
glad you said that because I was looking at it and I was like, these numbers, like
Yeah.
it's
Worked
crazy.
so hard, and I'm only here.
No, and not just me. Like if you look at the pros,
Yeah.
same. Like
Yeah,
you know,
I think
they're
that
not up
there's-
there at the.
Yeah. So I think it's probably like a category off. When you think about we're training for 3 sports, we're not maximizing on the bike.
Right.
So you know, if you want to be an elite, if we have elite as 5.5 watts per kilo in the males and 4.8 in the females,
You're only cycling.
right, you're only cycling. Whereas an elite triathlete might be more in those advanced numbers for cyclists only, or you know, around that. I bet it's probably in between. Like it's probably half a watt per kilo difference, and it seems like most of the jumps are about 1. So somewhere in that neighborhood.
So let's go over. So we compiled some of our numbers from 70.3. There's a mystery athlete here.
Now I do want to and so the reason I compiled these numbers is because one of the questions I put on the notes was, is power to weight a good metric for triathlon performance?
That's a great question.
Why do you think it's not?
As an overall indicator,
Yeah.
like for an entire triathlon, like if you fall with a certain power to weight, that predicts how.
No, how good of a cycling performance you're going to have
Wait, just cycling in that race?
in the triathlon.
Why do you think it's?
I want to say yes, but then I'm trying to think. Well, that's probably the wrong answer. But I don't see if you have a high power to weight ratio, that's only got to help you. Well, I
Okay.
mean, how does it hurt you?
Because power to weight is a fraction, right? Watts per or over kilograms. We don't do hilly races. So why does weight matter? So what's more important in the standard triathlons we do? Is it raw power or watts per kilo?
I see.
If you were going to take, I know it's not the right answer to the cycling, but if you're going to take the entire race, being lighter helps because then you got to do the run and then less impact on the run.
Sure,
but
sure.
you're taking that
But
out.
just-
So you're just saying,
We're
okay,
just
I gotta
trying to
like-
compare. We're talking about increasing your FTP to increase.
Well, this
do
year we're
fast.
doing a hilly race.
Right, but even then, it doesn't make as much of a difference as you'd expect. Yes, it makes more, like Chattanooga and even Connecticut will make a bigger weight will make a bigger difference than it did at North Carolina and Eagleman, but it's not as much as you'd expect. And so that's why I
bring up a
put
good
these
point.
numbers here, was to show. So we took the numbers from North Carolina. In some cases, it's pretty even. Like, so we have Maryland. Maryland and on the bike portion went at 241.58 at what I calculated as 2.37 watts per kilo. Okay, I'm assuming that weight is approximately
You know
about
my
right.
weight.
Yeah.
Now everybody does.
No, because I am not saying it. Then we have a mystery athlete who's 23 kilos heavier, right? At approximately the exact same watts per kilo
And almost exact.
and almost the exact same time, right? But now look at my numbers.
So weird.
Okay, I'm significantly heavier. I didn't even put my kilos down there. But I am significantly heavier than both of those
I
people.
just realized that now. You didn't put your kilos there.
Uh-huh. And I was at 2.23 watts per kilo, and I was almost 9 minutes faster than both of them.
So like you said, on a
So
flat
it's,
on a
if it was
flat
flat
course,
it doesn't matter.
On a flat course, weight doesn't make enough of a difference. Aerodynamics makes the difference, and raw power. So now this is a much harder number to figure out, but the number that's important for most triathlons, and I'll go out on a limb and say all triathlons, is watts per CDA, which is coefficient of drag.
So that brings up an interesting question for me. I don't know if I did a 2:45, so about 4 minutes slower than everyone, or than Maryland and mystery athlete. Which I don't know if that's like, is that a lot, or I don't know, but I was significantly lower at 1.9 watts per kilogram.
So think about like 1.9 watts per kilo.
That's considered, I think, if I remember the chart, is considered untrained.
Untrained.
Like someone who's untrained
but
on the
that's-
bike.
But listen, you can't compare.
That's hilarious.
You can't compare what you did in a 70.3 to that FTP number.
That chart. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
okay.
not your
Yeah.
FTP.
Yeah,
I
that's
feel a little
not your
better now.
FTP.
I was
That's
like,
not your
man,
FTP.
I'm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh, that's good.
But now the explanation, though, I think you said, I think
I think
my
you're slippery.
arrow was good.
I think you're slippery.
I'm a slippery guy.
Yeah. Because
Because his watts per kilo were so low, but his
My
time
time is-
was
Right.
not that different.
like think about this. How much work would you have to do, James, to increase your Ironman or your half Ironman power from 1.9 to 2.37 to get to Marilyn's watts per kilo?
More than I'm willing
it's
to
a
do.
lot.
That's a
It's a
ton.
lot. Yeah.
0.47? That's almost half a watt per kilo.
Yeah.
How much do you weigh? Or how many kilos? You don't have
at
your
that
kilos
time.
on.
I think 79 kilos.
Okay, so you're talking your power, your race power would have to go up 40 watts.
That's
Just
oh my
lose
God.
the weight. Just lose the weight.
No,
Yes.
but what I'm saying is,
So I should get an aero helmet.
If you
Yeah, he'd be so fast.
This is without an aero helmet.
if you lost the weight, you would not be. If you lost the weight to bring you to
He'd be
2.37, I don't think you'd be faster.
Probably my shape also contributes to my slipperiness. Like if I lost weight, maybe I'd be less slippery.
I'm like
Yeah.
a tank then.
Less slippery? More
I have
slippery.
curves in the right places right now.
Sorry. Got it.
I think what I think it helps you figure, like when you compare, it helps you figure out where the improvements can be made. Like, so
Yeah.
Marilyn, you're absolutely right. Like,
Yeah.
the watts per kilo is going to, the power is going to come up just as you become more of an advanced athlete. But like, there's aero gains
Yeah.
to be made.
My
you know?
new bike,
hopefully that new
hopefully.
bike,
Yeah.
you know?
It's going to be as slippery as James.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But like, that's kind of like, that's where you think like, if you can be putting out more power than all of us,
And you had more arrow.
and you add the arrow,
More arrow, yeah.
then you're a world beater, you know?
Just got to pay that $400.
And you said your bike was too big for you, right?
Yeah.
And it made
Yeah, and I
shoulder
don't think-
uncomfortable.
yeah.
So you like
So we'll see. Hopefully.
Yeah, and I
this
think
new one
like
will
if
be
you look
better.
at like finisher picks and stuff like that, you
can tell.
You can tell like it doesn't fit you perfectly. You know, so the new one will make big improvements where you'll be able to take advantage of that high power, but it's not watts per kilo that really matters. It's watts per CDA.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
makes
have a
sense.
freakishly long back and very short legs for my body, which if I'm on the bike, you're bent over, your back, the length of your back really doesn't change
Doesn't
your
affect
cross section.
your
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Doesn't
But my
change your
shorter
area.
legs, there's less
Yeah.
Yeah.
legs.
So if
being
you're,
exposed.
even like if you're sitting lower on the bike, like that's a big difference, right? If you're
Right,
closer to
less
the
of it,
ground,
yeah.
that's lowering your drag. So yeah, you have the
I also
potential.
have short arms too, so it's like I'm just all torso.
a lizard.
That's it.
like a velociraptor, T-Rex. Yeah. So that's, I think now what'd you do? You put our,
These are
or
all
what'd you do?
his
all
numbers. These
Well,
are.
I didn't
this
know
is
I didn't know everyone
interesting.
else's numbers, but I plotted out some of my recent 70.3s bike times, what the corresponding watts per kilograms were for that, and then my run times afterwards.
and so what we can learn from this is absolutely nothing, right?
Well, I don't know. I felt like it was. I thought there was some interesting data there. So,
Yeah.
Muscle Man, obviously these
Muscle
courses,
Man's the
and I
highest
use
watts per kilo you put out.
and I use
And-
normalized power for this too.
Yeah, which is probably right.
So I did a 252 bike at 211 watts per kilogram, 2.11 watts. So that was my high. So that was the most I ever put out on of these three races. 2.11 for Muscle Man. Eagle Man, I just did 1.67, and then North Carolina did 1.9.
Yeah, but aren't you supposed to be looking at your half marathon times after?
So that's why I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that's what's interesting.
So where I put out the most wattage, I had my worst half marathon time. It was a 2 hour 25-minute half marathon. Eagle Man, lower wattage, but it's interesting. You'd think
Much lower wattage.
1.67. I did a 202 half marathon.
With one big caveat.
It was
It's
hot.
flat.
Hot.
It was
Also,
very hot.
Really hot.
Yeah. And then North Carolina, 1.9 brought my watts up a little bit more. And then I had my fastest half marathon, 151. So at least just comparing between Muscle Man and North Carolina, Because I think weather was probably somewhat similar. Because Muscle Man was a bit cooler. It was cooler than Eagle Man.
Oh, for sure.
But not as cool as North Carolina.
We'd have to go back and look. I think North Carolina Muscle Man were probably
Similar.
pretty close. No?
Yeah.
I think
we
North
were not
Carolina
as
was probably
North Carolina.
a little bit
Remember
cooler.
how cold we were at
Cooler?
the start? Like,
At the
Yeah,
start.
that's
Yeah,
true.
that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, North Carolina was a
Yeah,
little
it's
bit cooler.
cooler.
Okay.
but yeah, like I had basically that's my fastest half marathon
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Also, you trained more
I trained more
for
a little
North
bit more fit.
Carolina.
Now,
Yeah.
what I think, to me, what this brings up is, we started the show off by saying, like, if you can have the bike be less of an impact on you, then you should be able to run faster.
And that's it.
I think that's true to a point. I think there's a sort of point of diminishing returns, and that's where the fun of race planning comes into play. Like, if you went out and, I don't know the raw numbers. I don't remember the raw numbers for this. I do remember, I feel like Eagle Man, you only averaged like
130.
130. Okay. So 130 watts. That's like had you done 150 watts, you would have run the same number. Had you ridden 160 watts, it would have been the same number. Like, I think there's a tipping point.
Yeah.
And
Going too easy. you mean?
easy.
right.
Yeah.
Where you can go easier. And like, if you did 50 watts, if you just were out there and, like
With the bag of
soft
potato chips
pedaling,
down the river.
right. Bag of potato chips, like just whatever on a cruiser bike with a basket on the front, you're still going to run the same speed.
Yeah.
Right. So where is that kind of, it's going to be like a upside down V on the graph, right? Where your bike power is going to have no effect. Maybe it's like an L. I don't know. Everybody getting this on the, your bike power is going to go up and not have an effect on your run until it does.
Yes.
Right. And it's where is that inflection? Where is that tipping point?
And that's what we tried to figure out last season, because after Muscle Man, I was like, all right, I don't want that to ever happen again. And so then we went conservative.
We went really conservative.
And then we're like, all right, let me try a little bit more. Let me try. And then I didn't put DQ in here. I was just trying to keep everything 70.3s. But
right.
each race progressively,
we pushed the bike.
I kept going a little bit higher in wattage just to make sure the run felt good.
Now, so does that mean that the number we used at North Carolina was the number? No, it could have been even a little bit higher. Like, we don't know. And the only way to figure that out is to get more data points. But I think
That's why he signed up for so many races. More data points.
It's all about the
More
data. It's all about getting more data.
So it's like how like that, and that's the challenge of this sport, is trying to turn those three separate individual events into one thing.
Yeah.
And maximize or minimize, I guess, your time to get across the finish line.
You're trying to find that
Managing
like
it
that
all.
optimized point between all three.
Right. Because a little bit of extra on the bike might make you a lot faster, but it could also make you way slower on the run.
But you didn't take into account whether you peed on the bike or peed yourself on the run.
Yeah.
So
He didn't pee on the bike. He didn't pee on the run.
Yeah.
Stop to pee.
Yeah. At least that was in transition, so it didn't affect my run time.
Right.
oh, okay.
That's why I'm excited. If I hadn't signed up for all these run races at the beginning, I could start working on my bike more now.
Yeah.
But when these bike workouts come, I might still complain, but I'm going to I understand now how much more gains I can get.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like,
by increasing my power.
I think you've seen like what good training can do for your run. Like, good training can do the same for your bike.
Yeah.
Or maybe more because you spend more time on the bike. Like, Ironman is 50%, especially Chattanooga, 50% bike, maybe more than 50% bike. So it's in your best interest to spend a lot of time on the bike and really maximize that. And if you maximize that, and then like the other, like, let's say you can get your FTP up another 20 watts, right? Then even to go the same speed, you're going a lower percentage of FTP, so it's easier, and then you can use that in the run.
Yeah.
Like, it's a balancing act that has so many different like little variables and pieces that you need to work on. But and that's why I think that's why I'm drawn to this sport.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's what makes it so interesting. Is all
there's
that.
so many ways to go about this.
And then what's maddening is last season, whatever, you figure out this optimal kind of power for everything and what gives you your best time. But then you age another year and your body's changed.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we found optimal for anybody. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just a constant learning experience. I don't even think when you find optimal, you're like, oh, that was it.
That's
like,
for that point in time.
yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
And then next year, it's like, it's going to be
Or
different.
next month.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Let's erase the chalkboard and start over again and see if we can get better. But, it's a maddening kind of thing. But, man, that's what I love about this.
But yeah, so I think like a big takeaway is for anyone listening out there, if you have a decent run, sometimes shift your focus away. Like you don't have to keep hammering the run.
Right. And I think that's a really important piece is if you have a decent run. If your run is like seriously lacking, like I'll point the finger at myself, like my run sucks, right? I am better off trying to become a better runner. There are tons of gains for me in the running side of things. I would be better off trying to maximize that.
We should switch strategies.
I just need to actually do it. So that's the caveat to that. Like if you're a good runner and you've been disappointed by where your performance on the run has been in a triathlon, then maybe look outside the run. If you're a crap runner and you're a crap runner in triathlon, then maybe it is the run. Like,
you just suck at running.
You just suck at running. Like that's okay too. Like there's ways to get better at running. But I think the bike is a big piece. I think the swim's a big piece too. Like I think that people come out of the swim gassed and then can't express that. It's the same thing. Like if you come out of the swim gassed, you can't express the bike fitness that you spent all that time on. So it's really just about being as well-rounded of an athlete.
You can't win it on the swim, but you can lose it.
That's 100%. Anything else?
Nope.
Rich, I feel like you've been quiet after you yelled at me before.
Well, he's been disappointed.
After I was yelled at, I decided to.
He was really hoping that we unlocked the secret to running better in general, not for triathlon. Sorry.
No, it resonates with me what you just said. The big part about why I didn't just want to keep running was because there's just so much in triathlon that there's always something to figure out.
Yeah.
And then like we didn't. I mean, it just goes on forever. If you're thinking this year you got a great run, then like something else must have fallen off. So not fallen off, but not as good. So you start focusing on that, and then you're like, oh, but I didn't sleep enough, so I didn't recover. So it's just it's always something.
There's always something, and that's I think this is a smart person's kind of game, right? Like I don't think unless somebody else is doing it for you, like doing a lot of it for you, I don't think you can be a dumb person and be a good triathlete.
Wouldn't it be like boring though? Like if you could like basically figure it out and then just do that. Like it's part of the fun is like testing and
I don't think
experimenting.
people who can do that are happy with where they're at anyway. Like I think I don't think if somebody feels like they figured it out, they didn't. Yeah. I don't think they did. I think
during a race, like the whole time you have to be thinking, like, how do you feel like about everything?
You're
like
always thinking about it.
Yeah, you're always thinking. Whereas I've done a million run races and I'm just running and, oh, this is hard. And, like this is different. You got to really be thinking.
It's tactical.
Yeah, exactly.
Am I going to stop at a porta potty or am I just going to go?
Exactly.
Piss all over myself.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
All right.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hopefully you took away a couple things here to help you make your overall triathlon times a little bit faster, a little bit more enjoyable, and beat up on your friends so that they owe you beers at the end of the race. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time with another episode of the Quad Pod.